While football has an undisputed presence worldwide as one of the world's favourite games, the sport and its adjacent industry appear to be chasing even more expansion. Despite being played in every corner of the world, its industry and the revenue it generates have been mostly concentrated in Europe, with over 75% of the World Cup players registered with European clubs. This past week, we saw UEFA approve 2 matches, one from Serie A and one LaLiga fixture, to be played abroad, far from their home bases. They did say they were reluctant, but are we witnessing the next step in the globalisation of the game? We're now joined by football journalist Joe Crann. A very good morning. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika once again. Good to be chatting to you. It seems as if UEFA are in a little bit of a bind. I know that it was necessitated by some things that were happening in those home areas, but it also has shown clubs that, in fact, if they push hard enough, they can actually get their games away from their home bases and grow the support in other markets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, they've turned around and said they don't endorse it, they don't want it to happen, but they've effectively set a precedent now to show that it can be done, it will be done, they'll be allowed to do it. And I think it's the same thing with, I'm at the risk of sounding like a curmudgeonly old man who doesn't like change. It does feel like we're sort of going into these areas of this game that we love and changing it so much that we're changing it to a point and it's sort of past the point of no return now. And I think if there was any trust that these were like once-off things and that they were every now and again, I think people would be less concerned about it. But I think that the big issue is that people will probably correctly feel that this is just the start and that what's going to end up happening is these games are going to get taken away from the communities that they were brought up in.
You can't really have this conversation without looking at the touted Super League that they were talking about in 2021, conversations which haven't gone anywhere. A22 says that they, in fact, have been in conversation with UEFA. UEFA saying that they, yes, in fact, have been in conversation, although nothing has been agreed upon. But basically, are we now witnessing a new globalization in the game?
Absolutely, and I think it's been, we've been getting there for a while. There's sort of these different moves that people make. The expansion of the World Cup, the expansion of the Euros. I think we're going to get to a stage where the meritocracy is kind of taken out of the game altogether, because that's where the money is. It's with the big teams. So whether it's not good for business when you have a Leicester City winning the league and things like that. They want it to stay. A lot of people want the power to stay with the big boys, and I think that's it's a really sad state of affairs, really, because football is meant to be about the underdog. That's it's why we love this sport, is because anything can happen at any point. And yeah, I think all these little moves that get made, they're all sort of part of this bigger picture. And ultimately, like I say, I do think that football, which is a working people's game, is going to eventually get taken out of the hands of the working person altogether. I mean, we're already most of the way there already. Yeah.
Do you think it's just pure greed?
I think that's the way that most things are in the world, isn't it? I think, and that's what I was saying earlier in terms of if there was trust that this was done for good reason and for the development of the game. And obviously you see it in friendlies, for instance, like the pre-season tours that teams do. I remember Manchester City coming out to South Africa a few years ago, and Barcelona coming here for a friendly and things like that. And I get it, like the expansion of your brand, the expansion of your football club. But I think when we start taking league games away from people, there are, obviously I'm a big English football person, and I know people that haven't missed a game in decades. They go to watch their team play, and are they now going to be expected to jump on a plane out to the US to go watch a game that's it's not just a pre-season friendly anymore, it's a league game. It could be a big league game as well. So like I say, you're taking away this from the people that made these football clubs what they are. And the only thing is money, because that's what you do brand exposure for. It's what you do brand expansion for, is to make more money. And I think that is just the nature of the world that we live in.
We asked a poll question to our viewers this morning, and it's actually running on X. So the question is, do you support football globalization where home, in inverted commas, matches are played abroad? We had 4 different options here. Grows the global fan base, no, home games for locals, only pre-season matches, and good for business. So the majority of people actually saying no, home games for locals, 77%. Although we did have 15% saying grows the global fan base and 6% saying that it's good for business. What do you say?
I mean, it definitely does both of those things. It is good for business and it does grow the global fan base. They're absolutely true. I don't think that these things have to be sort of mutually exclusive. But just because something's good for business and just because it grows your brand doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing to do.
Yeah, the UEFA president, Alexander Sefrin, actually did say that taking matches away from their community roots risks breaking football. Is there something going on within UEFA? Some people for taking games away and others not?
I would imagine so. I think that there's probably factions in any organisation, isn't there? And obviously football's no different. I think you'll find that within football clubs. Within the clubs themselves, there will be people who don't agree with taking games away from their home stadiums, their home communities. But ultimately, like we said before, like money will come out in the end. That's what will come out on top, and it's been that way since day dot. And I think that it's going to take a lot of opposition. I mean, I think you look at the way that people opposed the Super League, and that was down to the fans and supporters going and taking a stand. And yeah, obviously, like I say, I think that what this is now is they're taking baby steps, and they're hoping that by doing these little baby steps, they can get their plans in place before anybody can really do anything about it.
Goodness, so breaking their resilience slowly. Joe, it's been great to chat to you. Thank you very much. I asked this earlier to our viewers. Can you imagine them taking what we colloquially call the Al Clasico between Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs to perhaps Nigeria? It's very difficult to actually try and imagine that. That's Joe Crann, football journalist, chatting to us. Thanks so much for your time here on the AM Report.